Okay, welcome ladies and gents, and it is getting worse. So if what the government is telling us and the media is telling us is probably a good time for me to sort of talk about this topic again today, and that is all of this stuff around cyber attacks. I don't know if you've noticed just how much they're putting it in the media at the moment. It just seems to be absolutely relentless. I mean, the amount of stories that just keep coming on, and now there's even entire sections sort of devoted onto media, even the BBC and all this other stuff. Just as I was about to go live here, I saw this just came out this minute, so I just printed it quickly and delayed the stream by a few minutes. But it says that empty shelves in the UK still due to this cyber attack from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks, and it gets worse, and this is what I really want to focus on in today's video, and that's around your personal data, because a couple of weeks ago I talked about this and I said what I had done to secure my personal data, because I was absolutely shocked when I started doing searches and found that my personal data, everything about me, everything you want to know about me, even my medical data, everything was available to purchase online. I couldn't believe it. And then I started to look into other people, random people, and I could get their data, like everything about them. So I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and I shared how you could actually get it all taken down like I did. So I'll mention that in a few minutes, just for those of you who didn't catch that video. But this is getting just crazy, don't you think? The amount of, we're just seeing it. I think there's something gearing up. I really do. I think they're gearing up for something. Shoppers still experiencing cyber attack impact. They said across Kent, if you're in Kent, please drop a comment below. They said the co-ops across Kent, the shelves are empty. They can't get any food because of the supply chains. So people are, I mean, I honestly think the BBC is blatantly lying in this article. I just want to say that, because all the people are smiling. Why would these people be smiling if they can't get any food? That's what it's. The co-op in East Peckham Village Centre, the shelves were absolutely depleted. There was not a crumb on the shelves. Really? Please, can someone verify if there was not even a crumb on the shelves? I don't believe it. But this is the big one I want to talk about today, and this affects a lot of you actually. It says M&S says customer data stolen in a cyber attack. So what was actually affected then? They said it was, in fact, I'll go through all the information, but now, see, the thing is, they didn't tell us this at the start. If they'd have told everyone at the start, people would have changed their passwords, they would have updated things, but they announced it 3 weeks later, after the information has already been out there for 3 weeks. Telephone numbers, home addresses, your date of birth. This is insane. So what if they said that your personal information, including all your online order histories, is now with these cyber attackers, these hackers? They said now they want you to reset your account passwords for extra peace of mind. And if you use the same password for all different things, then you should probably, after this video, change your password as well as do a couple of other things. This video is more going to be an advice video for those of you who have never taken any data protection sort of action before. That's where we're going with this. But the actual retailer itself is losing £43 million a week because they still can't get into their own systems. Their supply chains are affected. And this isn't, I didn't realize there's more. They've not put some of this in the media. I mean, they're bombarding it in the media, but some of them, like Harrods has been cyber attacked as well. There's a lot of them. So the chief exec said the company was writing to customers to inform them that unfortunately your personal information has been taken. Why would you write? I mean, like, you're literally writing a letter and putting it in the post. Just email everyone right away, put it out on the media right away. I mean, this is, you can see why they've had issues now, dinosaurs. He said there's no evidence the information has been shared anywhere. Well, how do they know that? Are they going on all the dark web and doing also, I mean, they're just trying to do damage control now. But they're saying you need to be aware there's a high risk of identity fraud if you are an M&S customer. This is where it got really crazy. It said, according to its results, the company had 9.4 million active online customers. 9.4 million. Now, you think about the population of the UK. Is it 69 point? Drop it in the. I think it's 69.5 million. So you divide the 9.4 by the 69.5 million. You're talking like what 13.5, 14% of the population records right now. If you've ever bought anything from them, in the UK predominantly, I'm talking, your data has been stolen and it's going to get put out there. If it hasn't already, it probably will. This is shocking. Your name, date of birth, telephone number, home address, household information, email, potentially your passwords as well have been breached, and they still haven't been able to fix this since the 25th of April. Now I want to talk about something that I showed because I got so much good feedback from this. So many people that I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And I'll show you how to actually get on this in a second. But I just want to tell you about this service that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. How likely am I to recommend this? 10. Very likely. Yes, 10. Very likely indeed. Submit that. But this is what they do. This is basically a data removal service. We'll just talk about this briefly. And then if you think it's going to be good for you, you can actually use it for yourself. But what they basically do is they contact all of these data brokers, see all of these are ones that they've removed for me. This is my personal dashboard, by the way. I've been with them since 2021, and they enforce laws like GDPR, CCPA, and then the PIP EDA to force these data companies to actually remove it, because they can buy data. They can literally just buy it and then sell your data to all these to scam all sorts of places. There's not really much regulations around it. That's why the government had to bring in all of the protections. But these data brokers are still out there selling all of it. So let me give you an example then. This is one that, okay, these are three that I could, in theory, sue if I wanted to now. I could take action against them because these three are overdue. They didn't actually respond in time. So they are in breach of the law. They can have a massive fine. So if this happens to you, there's three here that haven't complied. But if I show you my dashboard a second, 190 of these have been sent out for me between November 2023 and May 2025. Sorry, I thought I was with them since 21. I was with them since 23. So in the last year and a half then, they've removed all of this. There's still 14 in progress that they're working on, but this is what they've done in the last month here for me. They've removed all of my data from these. So I'll just show you an example here. So this one says high. So if you ever see severity high, you have to do something right away on them, because this affected this identity theft, spam email and calls. I was wondering how someone got my phone number and email. Well, that's it. Data leaks, targeted advertising. It affected my credit rating very briefly because I fixed it. But a lot of them, one of them sold my medical data as well. I had a phone call from a medical company and they'd obviously bought my medical data over something. So here we go. This was another one, exposed medical data, if you can see this here. So really, ladies and gents, I highly recommend this. There's a link below in the description and the pinned comment to get this, because I really like this company, and I've only started working with them recently because I really like them and I stand behind them. So if you use this Neil60 link, they'll give you 60% off. So highly, highly, highly recommend that. So continuing on then with all of this, this was another one I saw then. This was a crumbling government cyber defences outpaced by cyber criminals. This was a report that's just come out. This is the UK government, and Labour has basically said it was the Conservatives, they didn't do anything at all, and now you are all at risk. So you're gonna start seeing a lot of stuff around hostile states. And I'm pretty sure I heard the terminology today on an article. Let me see if I've got it. But I want you to keep an eye out for this. You're going to hear hostile states over and over again. This is one of the new campaigns that they're sort of putting out in the media. And of course, you'll see the main hostile state will be Russia that they'll talk about. It'll be Iran, it'll be North Korea. Now, whether those states have actually done anything specifically, or whether the media just points the finger and says, that was them, like, you know, the Heathrow fire, they're now blaming that, which is quite funny. They're saying that even though one investigator said something shorted, blew up all this oil, they're putting it out and saying actually they think it was a Russian person who came and did it all, and there's all this weird stuff going on. I just find it bizarre what they are putting out. But they're talking about the vulnerable legacy IT systems. They make up 28% of all public sector IT, and they said there's such a big gap that they just can't close this gap without massive amounts of funding, and they're trying to save money. So and talking of saving money, they're about to kick all the civil servants, not all, but a lot of them, out of London and send them to Aberdeen. Imagine that. Imagine you've got this cushy job in London, and then you get told, oh, by the way, sorry, you're actually getting sent to Aberdeen. Sorry if you're from Aberdeen watching, but oh man, that would be interesting. What else have they said then? Here we go. The British Library cyber attack is a prime example of the long-lasting cost and disruption that these events can cause. I didn't even hear about this British Library cyber attack that basically crippled them for a long time. It says hostile states and criminals have the ability to do serious and lasting harm, and we need to prepare for this as it's going to happen. Now, this was out of the Financial Times, and it says retailers face 10% hikes to premiums after cyber attack. So I've just changed it to say you face 10% hikes, because the retailer's not going to take that. They're going to pass it on to you. So it talks about, there's a massive list of all these cyber attacks that have happened on companies recently, and people, by the way. It's not just companies, it's attacks on people's laptops and computer systems and networks and all sorts of things. And it says then, okay, it encourages all clients. So if you have a business, it says, we encourage all clients who don't have cyber insurance to buy now while it's still a buyer's market, because the premiums are about to explode. And it's really due to this M&S situation, which, by the way, if I didn't mention, is a massive supermarket in the UK, if you're watching from outside the UK, which has been crippled by this cyber attack for quite a long time now. And then I saw this one, Russian hackers claim to have targeted UK websites. Again, you're going to see a lot more of this. It's a 3-day campaign, they said, and it's all to do with Russia, Ukraine. But it's not just that. I found this one on US school district facing extortion attempt after a hack as well. So we've seen it in the US. It's not as heavy. Most of this media coverage is in the UK. So I think there's something going on. Please drop a comment if you have any information. I think one of the best things about this channel is the comment section. Everyone says that, because if we're trying to figure something out, you just read through the comments, and there's so many different experts that follow this channel that someone's already figured it out by the time we're trying to get through it. Now, before we talk about that one, have you seen the latest on the prisons now? You thought it was bad last year when, under the Conservatives, they released loads of prisoners, and then you saw an increase in crime because some of them hadn't been rehabilitated properly. They couldn't be put into society at the right time. There wasn't probation officers and all the other stuff that they needed. And that warning was already given out. But anyway, a lot of them ended up back in prison, which is no surprise. Well, Labour has now come out and said their solution is to free more prisoners after serving just 1/3 of their sentence. That is their solution to tackle the overcrowding. Now, I'm pretty sure they're going to build some prisons soon, that they're going to have to. And the reason I think that as well is because if you look at reform, and I was going to show you on reform here. So you can look at all the reform stuff and what they're talking about. But if you notice their manifesto on immigration, policing, NHS, there's a whole thing. You can go online and read their manifesto. What I thought was fascinating, and that's why I was able to talk about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, just watch this U-turn on different things. That's exactly what we've seen. And don't get tricked by this, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the UK and you do vote. Don't get tricked by all of this stuff now. Starmer all of a sudden doing this massive U-turn and saying, oh, Britain is becoming an island of strangers. We need to stop this immigration. They're not talking about people on dinghies. And you remember, I said this even before any of this news came out, that they were going to look to do increase it from 5 years to 10 years for your indefinite leave to remain. This is genuine migrants, not illegal. This is genuine legal migrants coming to the country to contribute to the country, and now their plan is to reduce that from, so they can't get their citizenship after 5 years or indefinite leave to remain. Now it's going to be 10 years. But before they were looking at reducing it to 3 years. So it's all smoke and mirrors. They're pretending to do something about it, but they're actually not doing anything about it. And it's funny because what we talked about before was, as soon as you see this massive vote for reform and they win all these councils, which they did, Labour now have just done this U-turn. So they've just, oh yeah, we're going to do all these things. We've come up with all these things. No, they haven't. They've just stolen all these ideas from the Reform Manifesto. But you're going to get people that get, and it's really funny actually, because I'm always out and listening to conversations and talking to people, and I love it when I overhear people talking who are absolute like zombies, listen to anything on the news and believe it, right? So I heard these 2 women talking about these new things, and they said, oh yeah, I mean, a week ago, oh no, I was really behind it, but now they've said this, I am just, yeah, this is a great idea, isn't it? Oh yes, this is a great idea. And I see it and I think, I'm worried sometimes when I hear people, and again, it doesn't matter who it is talking, you know, regardless, I worry when I hear these people so easily sort of fooled by the media that they just do this complete U-turn and then act as if that it was their idea in the first place and they thought this independently. If you want to read more about it, there's loads of stuff on this if you're interested in it. But I thought this was an interesting one. Firebomb at Keir Starmer's house, they said, but now we're not even sure if it was his house. This was the big one, you know, oh, Starmer, his house got firebombed. Now it's not so clear if it was his house. I'm still trying to read into this a little bit more as to what has actually happened. But what did they say? Can we see that word there? It's linked to a hostile state. So this is the 6th time in 2 days now we're seeing this new sort of keywords coming through about hostile states. So we'll watch this very closely. But I think the main action for you at the minute is to just check your personal data if you have been affected. Because if we're talking 13.5%, 14% of the population, there will be people watching this right now that you need to secure your data, and you need to check if it's online as well. Because this is, I see it all the time, by the way, people getting identity fraud, loans taken out in their name, credit cards taken out in their name, all sorts of things that wasn't them, cars getting taken out in their name. So just be really careful, start looking into this. And what I'll do over the coming weeks is I'll give a bit more advice around this as to services that I use and things that I do, because I've been through it, believe me, I've been through this identity issues. So mine is pretty tight now. So I'll give you some tips, but start with the basics, use that Incogni service that I mentioned there, really good, highly recommend it. And you know me, I recommend very few products and services, but I do recommend that one. Okay, and you can get it in UK, US, Europe, etc. So it should work in most countries. Okay, thanks a lot for being online today. Take care, God bless you, God bless your families. Subscribe if you're not already. See you next time.